Welcome, everybody. My name is Catherine Levin. I'm a vice president at the Scientific Alliance for Education. I can walk closer to you. Thank you. I'm vice president at the Scientific Alliance for Education. Tonight is being filmed by
CTSB.
SB, and so I just want you to be aware that they're right there, right over your heads, filming. So be conscious of that, you know, like. And we're hoping it's not too long of a program for you tonight. I want to first thank the Sheffield Library for giving us this space and donating this room. It's very generous of them. I'm very appreciative to their support. I also want to offer my support to all the volunteers that helped us today in setting up. A lot of people from many other towns, in fact. I want to thank Andrea of SoupCon. She's a new gal in town, and she supplied us with cookies and things like that, some gluten-free. And it's a good way to come to the community and give us food. We like that. So I want to remind people to turn off their cell phones, please, at this time, so we don't have interruptions.
Is that mic on?
I don't know. Is the mic on?
Doesn't sound like it.
That mic?
Yeah.
This mic is for the TV.
They don't have a mic.
Okay, so I have to talk louder.
Yeah, this is for the TV studio. We won't play it.
Okay. Can you guys hear me back there? All right. Let me know if anybody gets a little soft, because I know Alistair's very soft-spoken, so we'll have to, pump it up. So we have a little bit of a program tonight, and I just want to commend all of you for coming here today, because your curiosity is vital to creating new pathways for our future in this whole journey. I don't think the planet has ever been at a frontier like this before, and if you're aware of it or not, the fact that you're here and curious is what is the most important thing. You know, we all are going to make different decisions. We all may have different points of view, but we all bring something else to the table. And that's what makes it so unifying and such a wonderful journey that I have been engaged in since I've learned about all of this. Nina Anderson has been working on this front for over 25 years. She is the executive director of SAFE. She has written several books. She also does home health, healthy house inspections. She's also a pilot, ex-pilot, also boater.
I'm not an ex, I'm just retired.
Former. We don't want to say ex. And she's a wonderful source of information. And you have the opportunity to hear her tonight. Alistair Mraz was employed actually fabricating 5G and with a firm, and when he realized the harms of it, he decided to go on the other side of the fence. And we also have tonight a wonderful acupuncturist and functional practitioner, Lori Deutsch, who will speak. And she's moved here from Los Angeles, so she's rather new to the community as well. How many of you are Great Barrington? A lot, good. And Sheffield? It's a 50-50. So this is good. And are you from somewhere else, or? Ashley Falls, good. I want people here from everywhere. Lennox.
Yay!
Go Lennox. You have a lot going on in Lennox. We'll talk about it. I'm going to have also the format of the meeting, just so you know. We'll have these guys give a little talk, a PowerPoint. There'll be a film before that. Lori will come up, and I'll end with a closing, and then we'll have a Q&A. So try, and if you have like confusion about things, which you will, all of us can answer, and I'd like to do it at the end so everybody's all together instead of breaking up our flow, and then we can just sort of get to it.
Do you have a microphone perhaps for later?
I don't have one
They don't have
here.
one here. This is a library, you know, we're lucky to have the room. We'll just talk loud.
What's this mic standing over here?
That mic is for guest speakers if they want to chime in.
So you can go up here, but again, it goes to him.
Goes to
This
the
is all for the
television.
recording that I submit to CBS.
So,
It's a small room. Speak loudly.
Yeah, speak loudly and be quiet.
and we can repeat what you say just to make sure everybody hears it if that's helpful. Randy?
Yeah, my name's Randy, I'm from Great Barrington, and my husband Tom is here, but I'm gonna go to the car because I just need to rest. So, and I've heard this, and I wanna be with you all, but I also want to know I'm gonna put out a list for anybody who wants to be involved with Great Barrington. You know, I think there's a town meeting's coming up, and so I will, if it's okay with you, I'll put out a list. And
Yes,
anybody that
actually, we
wants
have
to-
clipboards, hopefully, and we'll get names on it. And on the clipboard, there's a little category to like, if you want to participate. So you put your town, if you're Great Barrington, put that down and check that you want to participate. And
Okay, that's already there.
I think it should be there already. Sue, can you point that out to people?
Yeah, we got everyone to sign up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so just if you want to participate, just put a check and then whoever will, some of us will get in touch with you and we have a few months for the town meeting.
Okay, so, and,
We have your emails, so you'll probably hear from us.
all right, so without further ado, I'm going to welcome Nina.
Hi. I started this, ooh, it's on a sandbag. Hold on a second.
Take it off the stand.
I did.
You just take it off the stand and hold it.
That's all right. I have to use the PowerPoint. I can't do two things at once. Dyslexic, you know, happens with age. So, but,
You just moved you didn't move the mic, you moved the phone.
oh, I moved the phone? See, techie people.
You could just
right?
hold it.
Huh? I gotta use the PowerPoint. So anyway, I started Scientific Alliance for Education back in the 90s when they were putting cell towers on the hospital in Great Barrington. And we were fighting that then, and we've been fighting this kind of stuff for quite a while. Written the book, you saw the book on there, Worse Than Global Warming in 1997. And I haven't updated to 5G because I've been too busy, but we will do that eventually. But the whole technology is pretty scary. It's something we need, but you have to be careful with it. So this is all about 5G, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the video. Frank Clegg, who is on this video, he is the past retired president of Microsoft Canada. Now, you'd think someone from the industry would be, yay, yay, 5G, right? No, he was in there and he quit because he realized how dangerous it is. So we're going to run this little video, and if I can get it going here.
I'm the CEO of Canadians for Safe Technology, a 100% volunteer-based organization of citizens, parents, and scientists focused on raising awareness of the harmful effects of wireless technology. We provide information on how to use wireless devices more safely and work with all levels of government to provide a healthier environment. I've spent over 40 years in the technology industry. My most recent position was president of Microsoft Canada, and I've seen the tremendous benefit technology can provide. I've also seen the potential harm if technology is not used correctly. In my opinion, our current implementation of wireless technology is not safe, and I'm especially concerned with our plans for 5G. I don't make this statement lightly. I've met with experts from institutions such as Harvard, Yale, Columbia, and the University of Toronto, and I've met with an expert advisor to the World Health Organization and one of the lead scientific writers for Al Gore's team that won the Nobel Prize. Over 250 scientists from 40 countries signed a formal appeal to the World Health Organization and the United Nations member states expressing their concern over the harmful effects of wireless technology, and added an additional appeal for the effects of 5G, especially the effects on children. Hundreds of peer-reviewed scientific papers have been published demonstrating harm to humans and the environment. This evidence includes increase in cancer, sperm damage, reproductive harms, memory and learning deficits, especially in children, and damage to our DNA, nervous systems, and the cells in our bodies. Unfortunately, Health Canada and the FCC are stuck in the 1920 science that states tissue must be heated to be harmed. The last update from Health Canada of our safety guidelines was deeply flawed. 5G has all the issues associated with 2, 3, and 4G, plus some additional concerns. Because of the technology limits, 5G will require significantly more antennas, and they will be significantly closer to our homes, schools, and places of work. We have one instance where a small cell antenna has been installed 20 meters from a child's bedroom. Any lamppost, telephone post, or hydro pole is a candidate for a potential 5G small cell antenna. In addition, 5G technology uses millimeter waves for the first time. These frequencies are similar to those used by the US and Israeli military in crowd control systems. Now, scientists hired by my industry state that the power is significantly higher in these active denial systems. That may be true, but I'm not sure it's relevant. We have no clue of the potential harm from exposing people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to millimeter waves. In fact, there has been no testing to prove and ensure us that 5G technology is safe to humans and to our environment. That is why we're calling for Health Canada to do a comprehensive review of the science-based evidence. This review should be based on the international standards used to evaluate and analyze scientific research. It should consist of an independent panel that has the appropriate resources. This type of review has never been conducted by Health Canada. There is a better alternative. Fiber optic and wired connections are up to 100 times faster, do not emit radiation, therefore they're safer, they're more reliable, they're more resilient, and they're more protective of our security and privacy. The IEEE has stated that wireless technology will continue to consume 10 times more energy than their wired counterparts. Our federal governments gain billions of dollars in revenue in spectrum auctions and ongoing licensing fees. But there has never been a complete analysis of the total costs from wireless technology. That's why we're calling for a total economic analysis of the potential revenue versus the economic burden from wireless technology. These costs should consist of, but not be limited to, increase in healthcare costs, the cost of lost productivity due to health effects, and the cost in breaches of privacy and security, as well as the cost and the harm to our environment. Some applications need a wireless connection, but the majority can use a wired connection that is safer, faster, and in some cases cheaper. That is why we're calling for a shift in mindset to wired and fiber connections first, wherever and whenever possible. My industry is installing the infrastructure for 5G at a very rapid rate, even though there are few, if any, devices that can take advantage of 5G technology today. That is why we feel it is responsible and necessary to call for a moratorium on 5G spectrum auctions, as well as a moratorium on the installation of new small cell antennas until Health Canada has completed its proper review of the scientific evidence and the full economic analysis has been completed. Estimates are there will be an additional $11 trillion in revenue from 5G technology. We also know it is very difficult for government regulation to keep pace with the rapid change in innovation and technology. That is why we're calling for a shift in responsibility and accountability so that my industry take responsibility to prove that technology is safe before it is released to the market. We have a model for chemicals that we can build on. This is similar to the accountability and responsibility that we expect from the automobile industry and from the pharmaceutical industry. Today it is possible to install a small cell antenna 20 meters from a child's bedroom without any notification to the neighborhood and without any consent from the local municipality, town, or city. That is why we're calling for a change in legislation that requires more transparency and notification to the local community and more consent from local government. We have provided many references for you to do your own research. We encourage you to go to c4st.org and read the full 5G appeal and review the over 50 references we provided. I mentioned the emfscientist.org of 250 scientists from over 40 countries around the world. This is also a 5G appeal to the European Union from 350 scientists and medical doctors. The Bioinitiative Group has reviewed over 1,800 peer-reviewed published papers that show harm to humans and the environment from wireless radiation. Dr. Deborah Davis at the Environmental Health Trust is part of Al Gore's team, and Dr. Joe Moskowitz at SaferEMR.com at the University of California, Berkeley is a wealth of resources and references on the potential harm from wireless technologies. Dr. Amanda Habas has lectured in over 30 countries and published over 200 papers. If you prefer your information in French, please go to Stapon La 5G. We hope once you've done your research, you will sign the appeal and share the appeal with your friends, families, and coworkers.
When that's over, can you
Thank
stop
you.
it and go to the PowerPoint for me? Okay, we got to get rid of that. And go to the PowerPoint, which is on the desktop. Okay, good. My technician. I don't have one of these little pads on my laptop, so I need buttons.
Do you know the date that was filmed?
That was filmed about 2 or 3 years ago. Things have changed a little bit since then. Okay, so here's a PowerPoint. So, I think. Magic. Okay. Let's see here. Mouse. Okay, so this is what we've learned. I mean, Frank Clegg, I really liked his video because it gives you an idea that maybe industry has, just brainwashed us all, and it's really scary. Okay. All right, give me a break. Hold on. Which one? Oh, hey, that's good. Okay, millimeter waves. And we're going to have someone talk a little bit about the millimeter waves. But basically, they're a band between 30 gigahertz and 300 gigahertz. Not that that makes a big difference to you, but they're known as high frequency. And we'll show a picture of that in just a second. And the big thing about millimeter waves, you got your 4G from your towers and your other, Wi-Fi, but rain and humidity reduce the signal strength and the propagation distance. It's called rain fade. And when it's rain fade, it's being blocked. So how reliable is that? That's the thing we're saying. Trees, walls, buildings. So even if you get it to your house, you might have to have a cell tower inside your house, a little repeater, to get to your Wi-Fi equipment, which is pretty scary. The 5G uses pulsed millimeter waves to carry information. That's pulsed. And Dr. Joel Moskowitz pointed out that most 5G studies are misleading because they do not pulse the waves when they do the studies. So they say, you have to have heat. Well, that's not true. If it's a pulsed wave, it doesn't make any difference about heating us. And it has more profound biological effects on our body compared to non-pulsed waves. Okay. Now, Russia, this is really interesting. Russia knew about the toxic effects of millimeter waves way, way back. And in 1977, they did a Russian paper, which you can see up there, and it was declassified by the CIA in 2012. And it describes the research on humans and animals showing a myriad of adverse effects to millimeter wavelengths. This was 1977. I call it, a bioweapon. The paper confirmed the millimeter waves do not penetrate the skin but act in a different way to cause harm, including the suppression of the central nervous system with notable changes in the liver, kidneys, heart, and brain. So you're going to go to a doctor and you're going to say, I got this problem, and he's not even going to consider it might be 5G. They don't even know. This is a more recent Russian study, and it 5G affects the heart. I have no idea why we're not paying attention to this. It was 1992, and they showed the frequency ranges that if 5G uses and impacted the heart rate variability, which is an indicator of stress in rats. And another Russian study on frogs whose skin was exposed to the millimeter wave frequencies found heart rate changes and arrhythmias. So if you're near 5G and all of a sudden your heart starts doing a little flutter, maybe that's why. Okay, we have the low band, mid band, high band. Do you want to describe these next two slides, please?
Sure.
He's got.
I have some props. So just to get your idea, in your head, what we're talking about, if you imagine this dropping into a pool of water, it's creating a wave. You push it down, wave comes out. Now, on the larger scale, if this is the Earth itself, as lightning strikes all around the planet, the Earth resonates and it creates it's called the Schumann resonance. That's at 7.83 hertz. So it's the waves are coming out at 7.83 times every second. So 1 hertz is 1 second, basically. The wavelength of those waves is thousands and thousands of miles long because it's the size of the Earth itself vibrating. Now, if you can think about your car antenna or the antennas that you've seen those like satellite, spindly things that people put on their house to get television signals. The wavelength for those, it's in the thousands of hertz, kilohertz up to megahertz. And so the wavelength is shorter. You need something that resonates at that frequency and that wavelength to be able to pick it up. I have this meter here. It's from 27 megahertz to 2,700 megahertz. So as you see, these pieces here get smaller and smaller as the frequencies we're measuring get higher and higher. And this goes from 2.4 gigahertz up to 10 gigahertz. And you can see we only need this much of an antenna to be able to collect that frequency, and it resonates at that length. So to test for a cell phone tower signal, this is the meter that will say that this tower is providing a good or a bad strength, and this is that's about 900 megahertz up to like 2.7 gigahertz or more. So when we're talking about millimeter waves, you can imagine a meter is about the height of a doorknob. So a millimeter is 1,000th of that. So it's on that scale where you're talking about this big or so. So can anyone think of an antenna that's about this size? Everybody has seen this. Moth, bee, insects. They call them antennas. So there's studies done a decade ago now with bees. They generate electric fields around them, and actually pollen kind of is attracted to them as they get into flowers. And then the electric charge of the flower itself changes as they collect pollen, which may signify to other bees not to go into that flower because it's already... Wow. So at this scale, millimeter waves, we're talking about things that can affect life in a whole new way, basically. So as you see here, low band is what we used for cell phone communication. Mid band is more like data transmission. You can fit more data at high band, which is 24 gigahertz and higher. That's millimeter wave. but it doesn't go as far. And as I said, the impact to the environment, it's not widely discussed, let's say.
Can you show the next slide?
Yeah. Yeah, and in this case, these are the three different bands for 5G. There's low, mid, and high. Low is at the lower frequency, longer wavelength. It goes further because if you think about AM radio, FM radio, it goes through walls. Cell phone goes through a wall. Wi-Fi as well. At those frequencies, it travels further. Less material will interrupt it. But as you get to higher frequencies, it doesn't go as far, so you need more stations. And so for the high band 5G, which is millimeter wave, you need thousands and thousands. I don't know the number they said, but even in the millions, depending on how wide of an area you're looking at. So
Millions of what?
base stations are called small cell stations, like little panels, to be able to transmit the data.
Right.
So
Can you put that to scale? So in Sheffield, how many would be needed?
Every 300 to 2,000 feet maximum. So
You're saying on every pole, probably.
just about every pole, yeah. So that's what, I have another slide here to show you can't get away from it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. Okay, so you see that we've got the millimeter waves that we're talking about that are everywhere. And we have a choice about our health. If anybody smokes, it's your choice to smoke. We back when back in the 70s or 60s when it came out, it was really cool to smoke, And then all of a sudden you found out it caused lung cancer. So you have a choice whether you want to smoke or not. Okay, and we also have a choice about our health. If you want to take drugs, either recreational or pharmaceutical drugs, you have a choice. There are side effects. You see every drug that comes with this long list of side effects. You have to make a choice for yourself whether you think that drug's going to help you or it's going to give you side effects. But guess what? Same thing with a cell phone. They've all shown that cell phones next to your ear can cause brain cancer, and we can choose to use a speakerphone. Okay, I keep pushing this. But guess what? Millimeter waves, you're not going to have a choice. There are a lot of health studies that were conducted by the U.S. National Toxicology Program, and it showed that the millimeter waves actually made changes in the body, gave you antibiotic resistance, which is not good if you're trying to get better, and the doctor gives you antibiotics and you say, how come they're not working? Suppression of all functions of the organism, including the central nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the immune system, and even eye problems, including cataracts. So you really can't run away from 5G. It's going to be there. If you allow it, it's going to be everywhere. You can't hide. So you're going to get affected. Here we just talked about the bees. Declining bee populations are supposedly linked to the non-ionizing, which is the 5G EMF radiation. It reduces the egg-laying abilities of the queen, leading to a decline in colony strength. So once you get rid of the bees, what's going to happen to your farming community? Hello? What's going to happen to your food? Bees are an essential cog in the wheel. So that's one of the reasons why we're very, very afraid. Birds won't have a choice. I like that little cartoon I found. This is a study that was conducted by Chennai's Loyola College in 2012, which is fairly recent, and revealed that bird species that are affected by these low-level, non-ionizing millimeter wave radiation frequencies included the following: the house sparrows, the rock duck, the white storks, and many more birds because they didn't study them all. So what happens? Birds are pollinators too, right? Now, there is new technologies used by 5G, beamforming. What they've found with 5G, it's a spray pattern. So in order to get it stopped with the interference that they have from rain and everything, they've actually almost made like a laser beam. It's called beamforming, and that is, it helps get the signal through, but it also is not really good for you. And what happens is they have on the transmitter, there are 64 antennas on that transmitter. So not just one, but 64 little ones. And guess what? In your cell phone, there'll be 16, and they're labeled millimeter wave antenna array. That's going to be in your phone. So now you're going to have those 64 things coming to 16 in your phone, and you get it. Better believe that it's going to affect you. And also, the stealth part of this is the fact that the 4G cellular radio antennas can be upgraded to 5G with software, so you won't even know. Okay, now here's a scientist, we just mentioned in the video, he mentioned that 233 scientists from 40 countries have issued health alerts about 5G. I don't know why the FCC isn't paying attention or anybody else, but this Frank Clegg, you saw what he said on there, and he said he's met with scientific experts around the world who have concluded wireless technology is not safe. And I repeat that, he said it's not safe. And he's not just talking about 5G, but basically we're just focused on 5G right now. And then the Environmental Health Trust letter to President Biden, it says the priority for infrastructure should be for wired rather than wireless internet connections. The U.S. needs a federal action plan on the issue of wireless radiation that should be informed by the latest science, showing that current levels of radiation can damage human health and the environment. And Arthur Furstenberg, who has been very outspoken on this, he's a scientist, he says you cannot contaminate the global electrical circuit with millions of pulse-modulated electronic signals without destroying all life. Pretty scary. All right, now in August 2021, the FCC was court-ordered to investigate wireless transmission facilities. They're called WTFs, that's the correct terminology. And they have not done that. This was in 2021. They've ignored it 2 years ago. They were court-ordered, mandated to do this, and the Environmental Health Trust submitted 11,000 pages of evidence against them. And guess what's on the table? That's what they saw. Kathy reprinted the 11,000 pages. They have that. How can you ignore that? That's what we're saying. The FCC is just, no, I don't want to, you know? So that's where we are with our warrant, and we want to make sure that they do their due diligence before we become lab rats. Okay, so we have a couple of solutions for that. Fiber is one of them, and cable. How many people here have cable to their homes? Okay, see, that's good. It's not destroyed by rain. Well, the snowstorm can kill it, but it's really a lot more reliable. It's less hackable than wireless, so that you're not getting invasion of privacy. And this is what we're trying to say. It can't be used for all things, like self-driving cars. You can't hook it up to a cable, but it's definitely an alternative. And here's some different things that you can see with that. Millimeter waves get disrupted by precipitation or disrupted by trees. They actually, even though the industry says, hey, you got to have this because it's really faster, download speeds, blah, 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 blah. It's not true. 4G and 4G LTE are almost as fast. So you have to figure out what is the side effect of having a little bit of patience, right? It negatively affects the pollinators. It can penetrate the human brain. That's not a cool thing. Aren't needed for making a phone call. And a lot of times you'll go into the town meetings and they'll say, oh, well, they say that we have to put this in because there's holes in the area where you can't get reception. Has nothing to do with that. It's strictly about data and data uploads and data speeds. And they are short range, so that's why you're going to have one every 250 feet in your neighborhood. Fiber optic and cable doesn't get affected by weather, doesn't get affected by trees, can be faster than 4G, doesn't hurt pollinators, doesn't harm humans, and is more secure. And I have a little picture here. Okay, there's two pictures. This fiber optic, you see most of it's, the green area is basically around Mount Washington. There's a little bit in Monterey, and there's a little bit in Great Barrington. But cable is everywhere. There's only a few places where you can't get cable. So if you really want to be safe and get faster upload speeds home, then you can hook up to the cable. Now, this is what we're going to talk about right now. The citizens petition in Great Barrington and in Sheffield. You don't have to read all this stuff. We have the correct terminology, WTF, in there. But basically, what it's saying is that the FCC was delivered by court order, these 11,000 pages of harm. They have not done anything with it. And Sheffield and Great Barrington both want to wait until they've decided this is safe for us. And all of these scientific reviews and everything that have been submitted to them, they have looked at and said, hey, you know, this is going to really mess up the environment and mess up our bodies. So we don't want to be lab rats. We want to make sure that we don't do that. And they tell you that we don't have the right. Well, that's not true. In the, there is, I think, in the next slide here, hold on. Yep, and section 332C7B of the Telecommunications Act, it gives the communities the right to make a decision on regulating the towers and this construction. So we don't want to go there. We want to make sure that someone says it's safe and proves to us it's safe before, you know, we end up subjecting our bodies and our pollinators and everything to that. So that's why we're really big on having the warrant go through. And Great Barrington, you guys copied the one that we had in Sheffield. So what we really need to do is have everybody go and vote at the town meeting and bring 5 people. We need at least 200 people to say, hey, hold off. We can't use the word moratorium. We've conferred with the Attorney General's office in Boston, and the Attorney General says you cannot use the word moratorium. So we said, okay, we're not going to use the word moratorium, so we didn't. But, you know, they know we're doing this, and they helped us make sure that the language was correct. Yeah, well, we say conditional. It's a condition. If you know, they have to do, the FCC has to look at the harm and with the independent scientists and determine it's safe before we're going to go forward. So we do have a couple of towers already on here, mostly in either the police and the fire department, both in Great Barrington and Sheffield, but they haven't been taken out yet. Great Barrington has more infrastructure already for fiber optic and for cable. Sheffield has a lot of infrastructure for cable. They don't have as much for fiber optic yet. Fiber optic's a little harder in Sheffield because we've got very old wires and things like that, they tell me. And so it's going to be really expensive to put the fiber optic in. But we have cable, so that should be okay. I think that's the last present. Yep, that's the end. So do you want to say a few more things on that? Or Kathy, do you want to talk about it? Okay, go ahead. I have to go and pick it up.
So I usually carry this around to show the research, but Kathy brought this up, so. This is the Bioinitiative report. It's just a few years old now on non-ionizing radiation in general, and setting standards for safety. So.
Who put that out? The same people?
No. Maybe a few of the same, but yeah, this is part of the lawsuit, and
Oh, okay.
this is an independent group, international group.
Lori, would you like to come on up?
Hello. So I'm a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I have a specialty in functional medicine. So I see a lot of people who have chronic disease or illness, or I don't want to call it disease, but a lot of people have issues with their health. And I am really scared that it's going to get worse with 5G. I can't imagine that it won't. People, you know, colleagues of mine are saying that 5G will create an avalanche of chronic illness. What's interesting is that the governments of Spain, France, and Germany and Israel have issued recommendations to ban Wi-Fi from schools Did any of you know that? You know, I mean, that's great, you know, but the U.S. is not on that. So, you know, people say EMFs are silent, right? You can't hear them. And a lot of people, we can't see them. And a lot of people can't feel them. But there are people who can. There are people who are the canaries in the mine, and I am one of those people. So in other words, I can feel like if someone says, will you FaceTime me? I say, no, I can't because it burns my face. Now, I've talked to, and if I stay on the cell phone long enough, I will just feel all kind of like creepy, tingly, and I have to like get off of it. So there are other people who feel these things, and here's a list of what other people feel who are sensitive. Prickly skin, tingling skin, itching, heat sensations, dizziness, tiredness, headaches. Now, the last 10 years, the number one cause of death in women have shifted from cancer to neurological disease, and a lot of that is Alzheimer's, like 80% Alzheimer's. Now, of course, that's with Wi-Fi right now, but like I said, it's just going to get worse with 5G, so this is going to be similar but worse. And also, there has been a huge, really huge increase in the last 10 years of women dying from brain-related disorders. Just the research was showing women. I'm sure it's also in men too. But and anyway, it has been directly related to exposure to Wi-Fi. So we have decades of science which shows that these man-made EMFs at everyday levels, like cell phones and Wi-Fi, have harmful biological effects. We've got research that links EMFs to cancer, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune diseases, and more. And we know that it's creating chronic diseases. And there are so many people who have thyroid issues, headaches, migraines, allergies, asthma, etc. EMFs, they affect every cell in the body, including DNA, as we heard earlier. There's also damage to our mitochondria. The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cells. That's really important. And EMFs are a driver of inflammation at the cellular level. And you may have heard over these years that, you know, inflammation is key. It's all about inflammation. And so this is just one of the things that is creating inflammation. There's other things. Let's see. And so the scary part is that 5G will disrupt many of our internal communication systems, and that's resulting in things like chronic fatigue, insomnia, but autism in children. And some people are saying, this one, Dr. Klinghardt, who's just very well-known, functional medicine, MD, he said that children won't get a chance to develop normal brains in the 5G environment. So now, EMFs are creating a lot of disease, but it's not just EMFs, obviously, because we have a lot of toxins in our environment, you know, a lot of chemicals and all of that. So what we have to think about really is our toxic burden. Have you heard that term? Mm-hmm. Toxic burden. And so we all have to think about, you know, I mean, there's no measure of what your toxic burden is, but however we can improve our bodies and try to be more healthy so that we can, I mean, we're still going to have, hopefully we're not going to have 5G happening, but we're still going to have Wi-Fi and cell phones. And we have to take care of ourselves because it's all about the toxic burden. If your toxic burden is high, then you might be more susceptible to illness and disease. And yeah, we just have to reduce that, and hopefully we will not have 5G in our communities.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah. And if anyone wants to ever talk to me about improving your toxic burden health-wise, that would be my department. But there are people, of course, Kathy and Gina. But there's a guy named Lloyd Burrell. He has a website called electricsense.com, www.electricsense.com. He's pretty amazing. I heard him speak. What's interesting is that there's a lot of censorship going on out there because, this 5G, it's a lot of money. He has books that have been censored on Amazon, and his info has been censored on Google and Facebook. So don't try to Google him because you won't get him. Just go to his website, electricsense.com. So he has a lot of interesting things that will help us.
What's his name again?
It's Lloyd Burrell, and it's Burrell, and then it's electricsense.com. And he gives ideas of how to protect yourself, too. So anyway, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's me again. I just wanted to follow up by stating part of my new profession is going to homes and offices, and I'll measure different electromagnetic fields. There's electric fields, magnetic fields, radio frequency, and some others. But on the note of people being able to sense EMFs generally, there's a woman I visited her home in Massachusetts. For years, her husband didn't believe her that she could pick up on things like that until enough times when she was like, is your phone on, or is the computer on now? And eventually he was like, it was on. But when I was there, she said, sometimes my husband comes down from his office down the stairs and he's magnetized. Even for me, I thought that's seems far-fetched. However, lo and behold, on the stairwell was a pretty strong magnetic field. So he walked through it, he picked it up, she could tell. And so we addressed that and moved on. But just some anecdote on that topic. So.
So, because of what Nina and I do, we meet a lot of people. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Because of what Nina and I do, we all kinds of people. Like I call it now radiation sickness. Because I don't like the term electromagnetics, sensitivity, because it's not, sensitivity makes it sound like, you're sensitive, you have an issue.
You're faulty.
Well, I think it all came from kind of like, what's that show with the guy with the curly hair and the funny Seinfeld? Yeah, because he was electromagnetic sensitive. It was all fun. At any rate, there is a gentleman who was a teacher in the Berkshire Community College. He was an art tutor. And above his classroom, they put a 5G antenna. And, the first day it went in, they were just pounding and it was all this noise. And then when it went live, like he came home that day and he says, my skin was burning. He says he didn't know what was going on. And then the next day he would go to work, and every day it would last longer. So it would last 4 hours, or then it was a week. And then there was, he started developing other symptoms. His heart, arrhythmias. He lost his job. Nobody could stand behind him. The college didn't care. Some of the students were affected because people don't know. And we're at a point now where people are starting to know what's going on. I don't know. Okay, this is the Berkshires, right? How many of you know about what's going on in Pittsfield? Not as many who should. The Board of Health is actually now standing by. There's a community where a tower went live December 2020, and the minute it went live, kids in their bedrooms were like getting nosebleed. Mommy, I feel dizzy. The dog was throwing up. I'm not joking. It's 18 families that were 18, not one family. Now, I'm just going to say, I'm not supposed to be talking about that because we're talking about 5G, but that's a 4G LTE tower, okay? And some of the bands of the 5G that we were talking about are similar to those. And it's an easy move. But nonetheless, so I go in and out of a lot of town halls, and I go and I listen. And I heard this one woman talking about, I don't wish this on anybody. She's one of the people that live up there. And even Amelia's, who's 13 years old, testifies to the Board of Health. I mean, it's incredible to hear these different people. They're all my friends now. This woman, Eileen, she says, I don't wish this on anybody. I never had anything like this before in my life. Now, and it's like what Alistair was saying about the gentleman. The more you're subjected to it, the more you become part of it, or it becomes part of you, so that you're affected when you go over to the supermarket or to the bank. This gentleman that I talked about, who's the teacher, the tutor, the art teacher, he can't even leave his home now. He's so sick from it. He says it does go away which is what we're all going to learn how to do, is to wire our devices at home. Wire your computer, just like we used to have the old phone that was plugged into a little box on the wall. You get an Ethernet port for your computer, you get an Ethernet cable, and you wire your computer to that. Then there's no ubiquitous stuff in your home environment. Now, let's say you have a cafe and you want to have everybody connect. Well, you can do that. If you want, you can have Wi-Fi and make it easy for people to log on. Just know that if somebody comes in with a pacemaker, he may have a problem. I'm just putting it out there, okay? I want you to feel that. What we do has an impact on everything around us, not just the pollinators, but on each other. Children, okay, so I don't know why I did this. There was a court case, and this court case turned around the whole power structure of this ubiquitous overreach of telecom. Because people have known, as Nina said, the military knew about this long ago. It's been documented. Decades. This is 11,000 pages, not 1,100, 11,000 pages. These are all case studies. These are all part of their evidence. They're in a court case that was started in 2019 and carried over to it's the Environmental Health Trust took the FCC to court. You heard Frank Clegg talk about how in Canada he wants them to be accountable for their regulatory body. Well, guess what? The Environmental Health Trust, good old America, took them to court and says, we want to hold you accountable for these safety limits, which we don't think they're very good. Can you prove to us that they're good? Because we have all this evidence. We have all these things, volumes, and they're on the record. Boom, they're on the record. We can use this because now it's been in a court and the judges ruled against these folks, the FCC. Here's their official thing, part of it, the first part, I'll read that. The judges granted in part and remanded the commission to provide a reasoned explanation for its determination that its guidelines adequately protect against harmful effects of exposure to radio frequency radiation. They want a reasoned explanation for its determination that its guidelines adequately protect. Because clearly, there was a problem. There's a problem. It went on to say more, if I can find my paperwork here. And it talked about all the different, it had 3 categories, but basically it had 6 items that it asked them to bone up to. And I must have it back here. Here we go. It must, in particular, 1, provide a reasoned explanation. They're asking the FCC to provide a reasoned explanation for its decision to retain its testing procedures for determining whether cell phones or other portable electronic devices comply with its guidelines. It needs to address the impacts of RF radiation on children. Okay? That's a big category. A lot of the studies in here, kids because their bodies are smaller, their skulls are smaller. Also, let me continue. The ubiquity of wireless devices, because there's so many of them. Kids are exposed to many of them now. Not like you and I. I grew up in the old school days. And other technological developments that have occurred since the Commission last updated its guidelines. Can I just tell you, the 1996, 2023, they haven't updated their guidelines? Okay? What they were testing then wasn't even a smartphone. It didn't have internet on it. I'll just read this last bit here. And address the impacts of RF radiation on the environment. Boom! That is another boom. The court says the environment matters. The court says our health matters. We have so much power, and we don't even know it. Okay, so telecom comes around and they say that, we want to put this here and put this there and put this here and put this there. They come to our towns and they bring up stuff, and we're being fed false information when they tell you that they have the rights to do wireless broadband, okay? So broadband and telecommunications are 2 different categories. What they always bring up the Telecommunication Act, and that regulates telecommunications, which is the making of a phone call. The conference report defines that. It's not defined in the Act, but it's defined in the conference report. I'm telling you a lot of legal bullshit. I'm sorry to use that word, but it gets like that. But we need to do is stick with the facts, because we have evidence and we have the right to regulate. And if our town decides that we want to have, I call it electrosmog. Maybe we don't want to have so much electrosmog. Maybe we want to have enough to make phone calls. Yeah. We want to have enough to GPS around. Yeah. Sure. But do we need to download that movie on the middle of the street? Do we need to, how far, especially if we know that the amount of radiation, so these small cell antennas, this 5G it's not about making a phone call. It's about increasing the range and the scope of, these companies that are very wealthy and getting them to be able to supply more and make more money. It's all about this whole circular drive. Yeah, it's a whole frontier. Let's have the Internet of Things. Let's have, driverless cars. Let's have, we can have virtual reality over here. We can have, I don't know about you, but I love nature and I like my own reality. Thank you very much. We'll get to questions at the end. I want to try and get through this and stay focused. So, the only rights that telecommunication has, because, when 1996, when this stuff came out, they wanted to make sure that everybody could, in an emergency, if they needed, they could get out of their car and make a phone call. I'm stranded. Or if somebody's like, has a flood or something like that, or if you're lost over here, you can make a phone call. That's what's monitored. That's what's controlled. We don't have to qualify anything else. Also, I just want to add that in 1996, when the Telecommunications Act was written, there was no wireless broadband, and they didn't anticipate it. They didn't even know it was going to exist. And the 1934 Telecommunications Act 47 U.S. Code 324 states the use of minimum power in all circumstances regarding all radio stations. Antennas and towers are radio stations. So they're saying to use minimum power to carry out all communication desired. So do we need to have these super high frequencies that Alistair was pointing out? This is where we're running into trouble. This is where we can actually say, you know what, we have solutions here. We have solutions. We can tell our towns we want to have a requirement for completion to these people, which is what we have on the petition now in Sheffield and Great Barrington. There's a requirement for you, if Verizon, if you want to come, AT&T, we're not going to discriminate between you two, but we have a requirement for completion in our town, and we want to let you know that, the FCC, as long as they've done their due diligence, then we're okay with it. As long as who was shown by the court what needed to be done, please update your safety limits, because we don't want to put any more of this electrosmog in our environment. Now, I'm going to tell you, people think, oh, the cities are doomed. But guess what? You probably didn't even know that the Upper East Side in Manhattan, New York City, they put a halt to 5G. They have all these old telephone booths, and they call them links, and they were going to put 5G in all of them. The community, it's all at the community level. It's all at our level. The community said, you know what? We want to they actually called it a moratorium. We don't have to use that word. We can just call it a requirement for completion. If that suits our boards, that's fine. We can call it that. We can make that happen. And then there's other places too. And just like you heard, there's many places that are doing this. I just want to say a couple things before I end here. We can improve our bylaws. The small cell antenna that goes in front of people's homes or on top of buildings can carry over 50,000 watts when all we need is 0.2 watts to make a phone call. These excessive amounts are dangerous and are not required. So we can write bylaws based on what we want to get done. And I just want to say that we are in the midst of one of the greatest environmental, health, and safety issues of all time. I mean, right now. We are in the midst of it. And you, coming here today and being curious about this, are now more knowledgeable than you were before. Go home, digest this information. And I know that if you are a caring, humane person, your essence is going to call to you and say, how can I help? What can I do? What do I do for my home? What do I do for my kids? How about the schools? There's a flyer up there that talks about the many schools that have actually said no in the schools. It's so important for the kids. And they can have wired and have plug in at their desks. There's many schools that have done that. Massachusetts for Safe Tech, Cece Doucette, who's the executive director over there, that's how she got into this, because she was implementing Chromebooks to her school, and someone in her book club said, you might want to rethink that. And she did her investigation, and she said, whoops, just like Alistair, did a turnaround, 180. I'm on this side of the fence. I want to make a change. So there's no future for a fully radiated planet. Nature as we know it will be extinguished. We can insist that an applicant provides substantial evidence for a siting in our town. We can regulate distances from our homes and businesses for wireless for the WTFs, those little antenna things in our towns. We can define the power of antenna in our towns. We can refuse the millimeter wave 5G antennas in our towns because it is our towns, our choice. Thank you for your time. So let's go to questions.
I just want to say one thing before we get to the questions. I can't find it right.
Oh, also, we're going to have if you tick the box that says participate, which I hope you do, because we're going to need people to help us at the town meetings, to maybe come up and say something in front of people. I myself, I don't even live in Massachusetts, and I'm here helping you guys because I'm so passionate about this, okay? I'm here to help Sheffield. I'm here to help Great Barrington. I'm helping Lennox. I'm helping Pittsfield. I'm helping wherever I can because I believe in this. And I want us all to unify because what we do here is going to take off. I know it is. It's going to take off. I just want to say next week, again on a Thursday night, there is a Zoom. And I thought I brought those flyers. Oh, yes, I did. Here it is. And this is it. It's the rights of citizens, and it's basically another Zoom you can log on to, and it'll help you understand that we do have the rights to do this in case you're legally minded. So, thank you.
We're not running the Zoom. The other thing I wanted to say is that for those people who, if you didn't check a little box on there that says we want to help, we're going to email you. At the town meetings, you actually can stand up, and they read the thing and they say, anybody comments, and you raise your hand, and they give you a microphone, you stand up and talk. We've printed out questions, the statements with a question at the end, so you don't have to sit there and go, hubba, 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 I don't know what to say. So if anybody would like these and would promise that you would stand up at your town meeting and say them, I can give them to you, okay? So
we can make more questions, too.
Yeah, we can make more questions. We only have 5 of them. Oh, you got one? Well, you got to put your name on which one so I don't have 2 people doing the same thing. So come up later and just let me write your name down next to the question that you're going to take so we can bug you to make sure you don't forget. Okay? Q&A.
Did you want to say something? Do you want to go to the microphone here so that he can?
CSB and our viewers want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Introduce
Can you?
yourself with the microphone standing right there. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
My problem is I have too much to say. There's an image that dances in my head and has for about 3 to 5 years now.
You hold the mic and gesture with the other hand?
Can't do that, Ben, sorry. There's a phrase that I found myself repeating in various locations with various people, and I stand by it, And I don't really know how to achieve it, but it goes like this. 5,000 feet elevation in the Andes Mountains with one Inca, maybe once a week, but only just for laughs. And it's kind of a something that I aspire to because after "78 years of traversing the planet and rubbing elbows with my fellow humans, I live in deep fear that we're going to walk over the edge of a cliff and not even be aware that we're headed in that direction." That's all I want to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Yapel, from Sheffield, and I work as an arborist. And I'm concerned about our employees and their proximity to these units. And in early 2001, I have a technical question actually first, maybe for the gentleman. We use cranes in our tree work for large removal work. And there was one set up in eastern Mass, extended 110 feet, a cable crane, and the climbers often attached to the hook to ride the hook to be set in a dangerous tree for removal. And the crane boom picked up enough energy from it was a combination of AM radio and these microwave towers. All the technical stuff I don't know. But as he approached the crane ball, he had a steel carabiner, which is a connection point for climbers.
Yeah.
And it caused an arc as he got to the hook. So my question is that electrical energy or microwave energy that caused the energy from his path to ground to the hook? Is that a microwave energy that literally created a yellow spark that jumped from his, or is it static electricity? Do you know?
What I can say is there's something called radio frequency interference, and that's where even the length of the Romex wiring in your wall can pick up radio stations, and it can charge, and you can measure that as well. So as current travels, it has an electric field around it, but the movement of the electric field causes a magnetic field. And at such a high frequency, it becomes, it acts less like a wave and more like a particle, if you will. So it's, what I mean is all radio frequency has electric and magnetic components in it. So it's plausible, feasible that could have charged this crane and could have built up a static charge and created the arc, as far as I know.
It was enough energy to cause first and second degree burns, and it wasn't the only occasion. So this was an article published in the Tree Care Industry magazine, and if you all would bear with me, I'll read some of this, because it brings to light to me the amount of energy we're dealing with here. Would that be okay?
I mean, we don't have that much, we have like 5 minutes, and I want to make sure everybody
Okay.
else, so.
Well,
Can you summarize it a bit, or?
well, I pretty much did. There was a second occasion where this was also reported with a crane operation. We occasionally need to work in close proximity to these, whatever you call the tower.
Yeah.
But the small pods, what do you call them?
WTF, just call them wireless, WTF. like-
The units that need to be every 300 feet.
Yeah.
So, 5G.
You know, when we're up at elevated in a bucket truck or a crane, that energy is all around us, and I'm here mostly to find out more, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
If you want, you can email that article to us, and we can send it to everybody that way, too.
There's a YouTube video that shows the climber with his
Okay.
beaner touching the hook and having that arc form.
Put that on the table.
And this is a link to that video.
Yeah, let's put that on the table. I just want to also point out that broadband, the fiber optics that's being installed everywhere you look right now, can be used for wired to the premises, or it can be used for 5G. It can go either way. It can be wireline or wireless. And if we don't say what we want, they're going to go wireless because it's cheaper. The installation is a little bit more pricey for the wire line, but in the end, I think it's going to save a hell of a lot more money, energy-wise and everything else-wise, too.
I have a question. I live in Ashley Falls, in the middle of nowhere, and my phone, the antenna on my phone says I have 5G. There's no cell service, or in our whole subdivision, there's no wires. Everything's underground. So why do I have 5G on my phone? That's what I'm.
You want to answer that?
Is that compatible?
Yeah, I can take that one. In a way, 5G is also a marketing term because they're repurposing 4G LTE, and they're adding to it. That whole generation is called the 5th generation of wireless technology. So you're probably still using the old towers that you had before. They just your new phone says it's 5G, not using millimeter waves most likly.
It'll be compatible when it comes through. That's
Yeah,
what's
could be
happening.
right.
Trying to program you to want it.
Yeah. And then you're already using it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting it. It's good, yeah.
I just have a quick question.
He needs to hear.
If you don't want to, it's okay.
Okay. Well, let's just say, given that 5G is installed in a community somewhere, what are the chances of ever having that removed?
Okay, that's a very good question.
And I'm thinking of violence here.
We won't tell. We heard it from you.
All the violence that we can put together can be quadrupled or by 1,000 other forces. So
You know what? I'm going to tell you that we have everything we need to stop it. We can stop it. Just this ordinance will stop it. If we just put this through, it will stop it. It will stop it. It will stop it. What town are you in?
Great Barrington.
You're in Great Barrington. We got to get people to vote in Great Barrington. On May 1st, I'm hoping to maybe get together another thing. But I will tell you, if you know what's going on in Pittsfield, go to Stop the Tower, and they have a Facebook page too. Sonia, what's the?
I don't know the Pittsfield one. I know the Lennox one.
Okay, doesn't matter. So, but nonetheless, it's much more difficult to remove it than to stop it from the beginning. Bingo. That's why I'm doing this now, because you're a little bit of a bigger town than my town. They're going to come here first, and then they're going to spread around. They've already blanketed Pittsfield. They're going forward. And we can say no. And there are places that have actually taken them down. So there is hope in sight, you know, like actually in New York City, they took some down. Unbelievable. You're not going to hear this on the news. Okay? So it's up to us to get together.
How were they able to take them down in New York City?
It's much more complicated because it has to go through a whole process and they have to shut it down. It has to be all legislative.
Hi, I'm Sarah Basson, and I live in West Stockbridge, and I just wanted to share something that happened last year. Next to my house, which is about 3 acres, it's a rural area, there's a really lovely, swampy area, right? Well, not swamp, but whatever the term is. But, so wetland, thank you. And we have lots of nature there. So there's frogs, there are red-winged blackbirds that come every year and they nest in the reeds. And so last winter, there were, in the middle of the night, there were these trucks outside the house, and we weren't sure what was going on, but I noticed in the spring that there were no red-winged blackbirds nesting. Makes me cry. So the males come first, and they scope out the area, and then everyone comes and they nest. So no red, right, and no frogs this past year, and so I don't know what's going to happen this spring, but I assume it's the same thing. But when I went exploring to try to figure out what was going on, I noticed that there on the phone poles, the electric poles, there were like these boxes, right? So there's like 3 or 4 boxes really close to our house. And I talked to the town to find out what these boxes were. And so I took pictures of them, and I didn't get very good answers. So I still have to explore that. But I'm afraid that that's exactly what they are, these small antennas, and that it maybe is too late because they're already up. And I don't know what the ordinances are in my town because I haven't explored it yet. But so that's my next step. But it's already been a very big issue for, obviously, for the nature. And so who knows what it's doing to me? I mean, I have terrible problems sleeping. So, so these are some things that we should really think about. It's not just for humans. It's also for the pollinators, for the birds, for the frogs. Frogs are like the canary in the coal mine for the creatures. So, anyway, thank you.
I just wanted to mention one thing, that what they're doing with the 5G in Berkshire County right now is they're putting them in the police and the fire stations. But I don't think they're the millimeter wave frequencies, because the millimeter wave only goes 250 feet, and what good is it if you're going to have somebody trying to talk in the fire department and you run out of signal? So they're probably mid-range or low band, but that's where they're starting, in the municipal buildings.
Wow.
I just have a quick question, really quick. Did you say 200 people? We need 200 people to vote?
I think it usually depends on what it is. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's usually a 2/3 majority or a simple majority.
She's Barrington, though.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in both towns, it's either a simple majority or 2/3. I'm not sure what it's going to be for this, but everybody's got to go out, and if you bring 5 people to the meeting, well, maybe we'll get enough
Basically,
people.
you're saying that we should have 200 people who are going to vote that day, is what you're
Yes,
saying.
and it's just to vote to wait. That's all. We're not telling them, because first thing they're going to say is, oh, well, I'm not going to have my cell service. And then you have to explain to them it's not about making a phone call. And then you have to sit there, they'll say, well, I need to download in 31 seconds instead of 3 minutes, I said, no, this isn't about that. This is about waiting until the higher authority says this is safe. Why do you want to be a lab rat? That's all.
Right.
What day is the vote again?
May 1st in both towns.
Okay, what time?
You have to call your town. I think it's 7 o'clock in Sheffield.
6:30 or
6:30, 7 o'clock in Sheffield, I think. But you have to look at Great Barrington, yeah?
What about if I'm out of the country that day?
Yeah,
Where I'm going to be?
Yeah, well, you have to vote in person. They make you sign in at the door with your name and all that kind of stuff, make sure you're a resident and everything, and they give you a little card, so you have to be there. So,
Okay,
tell your friends.
last two comments, and then we're,
I just want to let people know in Lennox at our special town meeting, December 8th, we had a vote about the planning board putting forth cell bylaws, new cell bylaws. And our planning board had only met with consultants from the tech industry. So some of us were very concerned about that. And we did organize and we did go to town meeting. And I just want to tell you this, it takes a supermajority, which is 2/3 vote, to pass the bylaw. We managed to keep it from passing by 4 people, 4 votes. So I just want to emphasize how important it is every person really be there who can be there.
And
4
bring
votes.
friends.
And they're bringing it back again in May for our annual town meeting, because when it's a planning or zoning board issue, they can do that. They can just bring it back again. So we're organizing again, but please just know how important every single body in the room is.
please, people, wear with buttons, talk to people about it, educate people, say, you know what, I'm learning all this stuff. And I want to have another event in Great Barrington, maybe on Earth Day. I'm talking to people about it. I'm hoping that the Botanical Garden will let us do it there, because that's appropriate. We'll see.
I'm sorry, I think this was already said, but the vote on May 1st is for what areas again?
So both Sheffield and Great Barrington have on their town warrants, meaning there's a petition for the people that live in those towns to vote, and it would be a yes vote to this, yes. The way it's worded is, the way to say no to 5G is to say yes to the warrant. There's buttons.
Vote yes.
One more gentleman first.
How important this all is, how technology has swept the country, how technology has doped us all in. I lived off-grid for 25 years. I tried to push the world out. I didn't care if I went to town for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, because I didn't care. I wanted to live my own little world off-grid. Now, I had to have a phone because I had to have for emergency. So I bought a Verizon flip phone, and I got hooked into Verizon to the point where an engineer friend is up in Albany. We used to converse back and forth because all I had was a flip phone to communicate with anybody that I wanted to talk to in the outside world. That being said, the engineer said the technology is there. They're going to push you off 3G onto 4G, and 4G is going to go to 5G, 6G, 7G, whatever they want to do. So if you don't stop them now, then the technology that's out there, the technology giants, the billions and billions and billions of dollars, I mean, children 2 years old have a cell phone. I mean, I look around at my little world that I used to live in, and I look at what's there now. I like to sit and watch people and say to myself, years ago I was at the airport. Everybody had an iPad. Everybody. I was the only one out of all the people at the airport that didn't have an iPad. And I said, hooray! I kept them away. So it's something that if we want to be lazy and we want to let us be complacent and we want to let us have all the comforts that we need, then if we let this 5G in, then there's no way of stopping them at all. We can stop them right now if we all join together and stop this thing right now.
Yeah, it's all of us coming together, folks. We really have to join hands on this. So let's help each other.
One more?
Captain, you might want to mention that you have to.
When's the next time we do this?
You have to
You have to be a registered voter. Yeah, okay.
And second question, how long before the room is too small for the group?
Good question. There you go. We like that. Did you want to have something to say?
I've been hearing there's a lot more about 5G than what we talked about tonight. And it's really dangerous. So, it's no time to wait.
No time to wait, no.
The reason I came here tonight, I don't know much about. Yeah, the reason I came here tonight is because I don't know much about this. I live in Sheffield. I'm on Miller Avenue. I just got out of the hospital in Englewood, New Jersey, because I had a tumor develop in my face extremely fast. It went from small to big.
Speak louder.
Right here, a huge tumor I had to have taken out in Englewood, New Jersey, a week ago, 2 weeks ago now. I don't know where it came from. And when I researched it, what it said in the journals was this paratoid tumor comes from cell phones. Wow. And I don't even know my pathology report. So I'm just saying that we all could get very sick, and I'm a pretty healthy person. This came out of nowhere. So
I hope we'll be okay. It's real.
And I'm going to tell you that 15-year-old to 21-year-olds, most common death now, brain cancer. 15 to 29, number 1, brain cancer. Number 2, thyroid cancer. Number 3, testicles. Okay? It's not a joke. I'm not even talking about cell phones. We're just talking about 5G here. But if you want to know, turn off your phones, put it in airplane mode, use speakerphone. There's so many antennae in those things. And they're vibrating, they're pulsing. We can go into it later. We don't have enough time.
Don't put your phone near your food either.
Very good point. Unless you like microwave food. Thank you so much for your attention. You guys are great. Let's get more people to happen.
Anybody who wants to talk in the town meeting, come get a slip.
Please sign up.